He didn't chase fame, clout, or luxury. He chased control, and it made him $100+ billion. By the end of this story, you'll know the mindset, but you still won't be sure of the name. He didn't grow up with stability, and he didn't grow up believing the world was fair. From a very early age, life taught him that nothing was permanent and that relying on structure or authority was a mistake. People came and went, environments changed, and rules felt temporary. What stayed constant was his need to understand how things worked beneath the surface. Before the billions, before the power, and long before the influence, he was simply someone trying to make sense of chaos. He wasn't driven by admiration or status. He wasn't chasing luxury. He was chasing control, not over people, but over systems. As you listen to this story, you may feel like you recognize the patterns. You may even think you know exactly who this is halfway through, but many people reach the end still unsure. That uncertainty is intentional, because this story isn't about a name. It's about how an extraordinary fortune is built in silence, over time, without asking for permission. His early years were marked by instability. Traditional paths never fully made sense to him. He struggled with authority, questioned rules, and resisted structures that felt inefficient or outdated. While others tried to fit into existing systems, he was already imagining how those systems could be rebuilt from scratch. Technology wasn't a passion at first. It was a solution, a way to bring order to complexity, a way to replace human inconsistency with logic and structure. He became obsessed with efficiency, accuracy, and scale, not as abstract ideas, but as practical tools that could change how entire organizations operated. He studied, but never blindly. He absorbed what was useful and ignored what wasn't. Credentials meant very little to him. Titles meant nothing. Results meant everything. This mindset would later define every major decision he made and every relationship he kept. The early career phase was anything but smooth. Jobs didn't last. Projects failed. Ideas were rejected or misunderstood. At several points, he was completely broke. Not struggling, not between opportunities, but genuinely without money and dependent on others for basic survival. For most people, that level of failure would signal the end. For him, it was information. Every setback showed him what didn't work, what people underestimated, and where systems were collapsing under their own complexity. During this period, he spent countless hours observing how large organizations functioned. He noticed inefficiencies that others accepted as normal. He saw how decisions were delayed, how data was lost, and how power was often exercised without accurate information. Then he noticed something critical that others ignored. Organizations were generating enormous amounts of information, but they had no reliable way to manage it. Data existed everywhere, but it was fragmented, slow, and inconsistent. Decisions were being made on partial truths, and the larger the organization, the worse the problem became. He understood the implications immediately. Information wasn't just a resource, it was leverage. Whoever controlled it would control speed, accuracy, and scale. And whoever mastered that would eventually dominate entire industries, not through visibility, but through necessity. So he built a solution. Not carefully and not conservatively. He built aggressively, assuming that hesitation would be fatal. He didn't wait for validation. He didn't wait for perfect conditions. He moved while others debated. The early stages were brutal. Long hours, small teams, limited resources, and constant pressure. Every decision carried weight. Every mistake had consequences. There was no safety net. Failure wasn't theoretical, it was always close. He demanded precision. He pushed people hard. He expected results, not excuses. This earned him a reputation that many found difficult. Some called him impossible to work with. Others called him visionary. Both were true. Slowly, companies began to rely on what he built. Then they became dependent on it. Then they realized they couldn't function without it. As technology evolved, his systems didn't fade. They became more central, more embedded, more difficult to replace. Competitors emerged, but they were always reacting. He was building infrastructure. While others chased short-term gains, he focused on foundations designed to last decades. He wasn't interested in trends. He was interested in dominance. The wealth accumulated gradually, then suddenly. Tens of billions turned into more. At a certain point, the numbers stopped feeling real. Today, his fortune sits comfortably above $100 billion, placing him among the most powerful individuals on the planet. But money was never the primary objective. What wealth gave him was freedom. Freedom to acquire, to expand, to control direction. He owns assets that symbolize ultimate independence: private islands, elite properties across the world, and one of the most remarkable private sailing vessels ever constructed. Despite this level of wealth, he never chased public approval. He avoided unnecessary attention and ignored cultural trends that didn't align with long-term power. While others built personal brands, he built systems so deeply integrated that removing them would be nearly impossible. He was often criticized, labeled arrogant, difficult, even ruthless. But those judgments missed the point. He wasn't competing with people. He was competing with time. Every major move he made was designed to survive change. When industries shifted, his systems adapted. When competitors rose, they eventually returned to what he had already built. When the market demanded speed, his infrastructure delivered it. Even after reaching a level of wealth where stopping would have been effortless, he didn't slow down. Not because he needed more money, but because comfort was never part of his identity. The work itself had become the mission. This is what truly separates him. Not intelligence alone, not ambition alone, but the inability to settle. The refusal to accept that success means rest. His story proves that extreme wealth is not built through glamour or shortcuts. It is built through obsession, long-term thinking, and a willingness to be misunderstood for years while others catch up. Now you've heard the journey. You know the scale of the fortune. You understand the mindset behind it. So the question remains, who do you think this story belongs to? Leave your guess in the comments.